Wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I'm Imam Dr. Wazir Ali, and we are broadcasting from the beautiful city of Houston, Texas. We have a young adult panel today, a brilliant, intelligent, insightful young adults to share with us their insights and perceptions on the reality of our current situation. It has been tremendously turbulent in the United States as of late. We're in the middle of a generational pandemic, a once in a lifetime pandemic. And we also are witnessing a political atmosphere unlike any that we have witnessed in our times recently. And it's important for us to hear from the young adults because you are the future. Um, and you are the next generation of leadership in the community and in the United States of America. It's the 20-year-olds and the 30-year-olds who set out to change the world, who bring about great change. It's always the younger generation with new ideas, new thoughts, uh, new aspirations that breathe life into any kind of a spirit. So we have additional people that are going to get on today. But we have with us now Fatima Ali and Aisha Rashid, and they're both two adult leaders in the younger age bracket in the community. Abdullah Najjar and Mustafa Carroll is all supposed to be on today. So I'm waiting for them to get on. But let's start out with Aisha and Fatima. How in the world are you two processing everything you saw over the last 2 weeks?
Well, if let me see, we can bounce off of each other too. I'm totally okay with that. But I know that it's been a lot to process. I know when I first saw the folks at the Capitol, I just thought, wow, all of these people, like I it was a lot to process seeing so many people just behaving in the way that they were, busting through windows, um, shouting angry rhetorics. I mean, you saw people carrying what is it like? Uh, pro- you saw people carrying flags that had messages of hate on them, or you saw like white supremacists. You saw the presence of white supremacy and some of the what's it called, the just the overwhelming presence of the white supremacist ideology storming the Capitol. It was a lot to take in. Um, what came to mind when you first saw that? Just the insurrection.
Um, it just seemed it was kind of surreal for me. It was just like, wow, this is really happening, and I had a lot of thoughts. Some of them were, not surprised that these people feel that way, that they feel like,
Mhm.
oh, they can go do this. I also felt like a lot of them, they just live in such a different It just feel like they live in such a different reality than I do, because I feel like I would
Mhm.
never ever like even consider doing something like that. I don't want to call them delusional because they're living in whatever their perceived reality is. And then it was just very shocking how it wasn't taken care of, like, at all. And
No.
it was very troublesome to see that, you know, the government's response, a lot of things I've seen on social media, people comparing it to when the Black Lives Matters were doing their protest and this one. And it's just like they just let it happen. You
Yes.
know? There's been so many different theories. Oh, they let the police let them in, etc. But even if someone says, "Well, the police didn't really let them in," it seems like there was no defense. And I'm like, this is the Capitol building of our nation. Where's the security? Like, if I go
Right.
to Walmart, there's more security at Walmart.
Right.
So that's how,
Exactly.
and I'm just still processing it. I feel like I'm living, even with everything that went on last year, I still feel like I'm living in a movie And 10 years from now, I'll be looking back and being like, wow, that actually happened. You know, I feel like it's one of those, if we look back 50 years and we look at different, I'm just going to use the civil rights movements. It may have been more than 50 years, but I'm just going to say the civil rights movements. I'm sure in the moment, people were just going day to day. Not everybody knew what strong effect it would have on our history. So I feel like that's where I'm at right now. I don't really know where this is going to lead. I don't really know what's happening. It's kind of just like things are being thrown at us.
That's a really good point, especially since like the insurrection was an act of like domestic terrorism. Like it happened right. It happened on our front lawn, and we were not prepared for it, even though we had plenty of time to be prepared for it. So that's incredibly unsettling in and of itself, and just really shocking. It's a lot to take in, a lot to process. And I think for myself, just seeing so much violence take place on our national stage, it was a lot to take in. That's not something I'd usually associate with America modern day. So yeah, I definitely had to do a lot of processing.
So y'all make excellent points, both of you. And it's alaikum salam, Abdullah. It's I know how I process it as a 45-year-old male who was mentored by individuals who were leaders in the 50s and 60s during the most turbulent periods. I know how I process it as the son of one of the pioneer leaders in terms of da'wah and the propagation of Islam in the country, who also dealt with a whole lot of racial strife, who told me he was once arrested because some young people were allowed in the masjid who was interested in Islam, and that the police came and arrested them for contributing to the delinquency of minors, and who faced from the age of I believe he told me he was 4 or 5 years old the first time him and his brother had to run from a mob of angry. At this time it was a mob of hateful Caucasian individuals, and you know, we're not suggesting that all Caucasians are hateful, but he was running from a mob of Caucasian individuals who was threatening to kill him. And he told this story. My father, may Allah forgive his sins and bless him with paradise. He would tell us this story, and that's one of the reasons he said that him and his family had to leave Nebraska. They were living in Nebraska at the time, and they moved out west to California. So I know how I process everything that I'm seeing right now, based on what I've seen in my life. How are you? And then I want to particularly gear this toward the Muslim community. How are you, as young individuals from the Muslim community, and we have a couple different perspectives. We have both Fatima and Aisha, who were kind of raised in an indigenous community, but who both went away to college and had some very unique experiences. You went to Columbia, right, Aisha?
Cornell.
Okay, so Aisha went to Cornell. She graduated from Cornell, fine, it's one of the highest institutions of learning in the United States of America. And Fatima went to Ivy League. Okay, yes, Ivy League, mashallah. Thank you for adding that, Abdullah. And Fatima went to Colby College, 17th ranked liberal arts college in the country, and they had unique experiences, right? Yet they grew up in a community in which many of the people had a history before they became Muslims of poverty. They grew up in a masjid that's in the middle of a lower socioeconomic status neighborhood. So they've seen two separate realities, both in terms of Islam and their place in the society. And then we also have Abdullah al-Najjar, who comes from grew up in America, but has a complete different set of experiences from the communities that he frequented growing up. So I'd be interested to hear y'all's perspectives on how the events, the recent events, especially what we witnessed at the Capitol last week. How's that? 2 weeks ago, but how's that affecting you all's perception or your views on, or how do you think it's going to affect the Muslim community moving forward?
Mm.
Fatima, should I take it?
Go for it. I'm still thinking. Yeah.
Are you sure? You're still thinking? Aisha?
You can go first. I'll wait.
Okay. I don't have an Ivy League education. Are you sure I can handle this? May Allah bless you and protect you both, sisters. I'm only joking. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa sallallahu. There's a lot that comes to mind, and Imam Wazir, may Allah reward you for your framing. I love the way he asks questions. I love the way he explains constantly. Always makes it very, very easy to follow and easy to understand, but also he makes it interesting. Allah bless him. So I just found out something new that I didn't know. So before I jump into the answer, I didn't know that one of my mentors was mentored by, all the background that he gave. I didn't know that. I didn't know much about his father, nor did I know that. But anyways, okay, this is great, mashallah. It's nice to be part of that tradition. Donald Trump, whether rightfully so or not rightfully so, the fact is that he scared the vast majority of the quote unquote immigrant Muslim community, which is the community that I'm a part of, like where our parents are immigrants and maybe we were born and raised here, which is probably the biggest percentage of Muslims in America right now, probably similar to me for his generation, I think, wallah. But the vast majority of them, I think, if they were, to be honest, they'll say they were really afraid these last 4 years. Proof of that is social media posts, constantly following all of his, like everything he said. How could he say this? And how could he say this about us? It's like, you could choose to, there's many ways to respond to someone being president. Everyone knows in America that the president has limited powers, but you can give him more power over yourself if you want to, like constantly obsessing over and freaking out over everything he posted, everything he tweeted. And a lot of Muslims, for us in our community, people were talking about him every day. That's one. But also, and actually almost everyone in America did that too. I feel like they fell for that trap of constantly obsessing over what he was saying and doing when you could have ignored him and kind of built your own thing. But another thing was that the numbers of attendees in the masajid went down. I saw it for a fact because I prayed in a number of masajid around the Houston area. Some of the biggest masajid in the country, and generally, there's plenty of Muslims in Houston. But I saw over 4 years, I saw the decline of people attending the masjid. I could be wrong, but I didn't take notes, but it seems empirical. Seems like that was my observation. I think it's related because we also were hearing plenty of issues, legal issues and political issues. We did win a number of cases, alhamdulillah. The Muslim community, like CARE, Council on American Islamic Relations, they won a number of very important cases related to Palestine, related to watch list, related to like airport, security and things related to being Muslim in public and so on. So that's good. And that was, but overall, the 4 years was basically the primary emotion was fear. The Muslim community freaked out, and understandably, if they weren't, our community, we haven't been here for 400 years, so we haven't been through much worse, So therefore, this, which is minor in relation to events in U.S. history, is a bigger deal. So post 9/11, obviously it's been rough. So we're like the post 9/11 generation. Me growing up, this is the world that we know. Our parents thought they were coming to the U.S. I'm generalizing. They thought they were coming to the U.S. to escape from conflict, politics, corruption, injustices, wrongful imprisonment, etc. You can go down the list. They thought they were escaping this when they're coming from whatever country they came from, Egypt, Pakistan, etc. And coming to the U.S. because it's the land of freedom, opportunity, justice, pursuit of happiness, etc., etc., etc. And we all know that these things are written on paper and they are implemented to some extent or another. Right? It's not like none of it is true at all. There's no justice in America. It's not true. In fact, right now today, there's plenty of injustice around the world, and the U.S. has relative justice. But it also shocks people that there's a president that can say bad things about you. But really, if you know American society, you know that everyone's talking smack about everyone at all times in all places, and it's just business. It's just business to take a group of people and try to make them feel lesser than you. It's easier than to sell to them. It's easier than to employ them. It's easier than to, and the rest. So it was mostly fear. But the events of 2 weeks ago was something I think worth celebrating. I mean, it's disgusting, but also there's a positive side to it. I mean, it's a cup half empty, half full. The positive side is we saw the fall of Donald Trump, and he was impeached again. It's almost laughable because no president has ever done that, but that's never happened. But it's a positive in the sense that it's not the fall of the American empire. That's not accurate, nor the fall of Western civilization, or even like white America. But it's like the fall of Trump. It represents the fall of white supremacy, or at least a partial. So there's a positive in that. It shows how laughable it is. Like these, because I also speak to the youth all the time. So this is what I've shared with them. I told them you guys do realize that if a group of people went to the White House and you took over, whatever that means, and which is what they're trying to do, I guess. If you take over the White House, it doesn't mean you run America. Like this is one building, and the congressman and the vice president, all of them, they escaped, right? Like they have the power, they're an authority. Just because you run that building, or you take pictures in front of the building, or you steal stuff from the offices, or you sit in the desk of the White House, whatever, or the desk of the president, doesn't mean now you run the country. So they're like, yeah, you're right. So like these guys really had that limited, like the mindset was really at that level. They were that ignorant, and that it was a joke. Alhamdulillah for everything. And if there's one other thing I wanted to say is that the immigrant Muslim community, I think from what I'm seeing, right, it seems like a good chunk of them, the bulk of them, do feel that Biden's gonna be a lot better than Trump, or like things are gonna get better in the next 4 years over the last 4 years, because the rhetoric is different. But I really do think, I have Muhammad Ali in the back. My mentors virtually, at least, are at a distance. I never got to meet any of them, whether it's Imam Muhammad or Malcolm X or Muhammad Ali or any of these people. But that generation and so are the people that I grew up listening to, at least. And I love that they used to say that we should critically engage with both sides, and that we shouldn't, put ourselves in either box, and that we don't have to be Democrats or Republicans, but we should be role model citizens. We should be proud of the fact that we're American, and that we want to push our society forward, but we don't need to necessarily, put ourselves in a box in that sense. So I would say, if they would listen to me, the immigrant Muslim community needs to know that you shouldn't blindly trust, any of the politicians. Rather, you should put your community first. Do for self and build yourself up. And why not? When we should be producing our own politicians and our own intellectuals and so on. I believe that's it.
Okay, Fatima, did you want to go next, or?
You can go next. It's okay.
Okay. Well, I guess one of my thoughts. So first, it's interesting that Imam Wazir mentioned Nebraska, because that's actually where I've had to travel recently for work. So I've been there for the past couple of weeks, and I will be there for a few more weeks in the future. And of course, there's not many people that look like me there. So that part has been interesting. But something that I've noticed, like just talking to people, most people have been very kind. Alhamdulillah, I haven't experienced anything yet, like racially obvious, or like a bunch of microaggressions or anything like that. But just talking to some people, I realized how a lot of them just have a completely different reality. I've mentioned a little bit earlier, like a completely different reality of what I do being Black in America, to where like they would totally see going to this Capitol building as a way that they can take over the government. Or they just have a certain amount of privilege, I guess, based on however they were raised, however they perceive themselves in this country. So they would totally see that as something to do. But me growing up, being Black and Muslim, our father, he was very focused on Black history. He was focused on Islamic history. So a lot of this, it's like, you guys may have seen on social media people saying, oh, we're not surprised. Like, I'm not surprised that they felt like they could go do that. I'm not surprised that they were allowed to go do it. It's sad that I'm not surprised by that. But it's also like, if you look at the history in our country, that's what it's based on. It's kind of like I just feel like I'm just in another chapter of American history. I won't say it's repeating itself exactly as it has been, but it's very like the rhetoric and everything is very similar. They're just not, we've been given more rights basically, so they can't just go around doing whatever they want to us, but they still have that that white privilege, which is what this country is based on, or this country was built on white supremacy, white privilege, all of that. So they still have that. So as far as like moving forward, I agree with what Abdullah was saying about we need to focus our communities into becoming leaders so that we can change things for ourselves. I definitely feel like the Muslim community, we should be more into politics. We should be more into knowing exactly what's going on. I know me, myself, I don't know much about the government, honestly, besides what I learned in high school, because I just haven't done that much research. But I think that we should definitely do that as a community, so that we can be prepared for whatever's thrown at us, because obviously we can see that they might throw some crazy stuff at us, as we saw with Donald Trump's presidency. So I feel like we need to be prepared for that. We need to have people that can come in and, we can be like, no, like that's not going to happen. I know like the black Muslim community has a different experience than what the other Muslim communities may have. because like Imam Wazir is saying, our parents, our grandparents, they all went through much worse than this. So they're just like, oh, there they go again, doing what they always do. So yeah, so that's my take on it.
And I would say that I think it will affect different Muslim youth in different ways. I know over the past 4 years, some Muslim youth who have decided to very much become unapologetically Muslim and to just be very forward about their Muslim identity, as so that they don't have to feel like that's something that they have to hide. I've known some Muslim youth who have become more invested in building Muslim community, either in cities or on campuses, just so that they can have that sense of Muslim connection in spaces that aren't necessarily designed for Muslims or people who don't come from an affluent background or who aren't Caucasian. I know that I've known some Muslim youth who have become much more intentional about not only practicing their faith, but also determining how to engage politically and engage civically in a way that's informed by the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet. And I've also known, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, thank you. And I've known some youth who aren't Muslim, but through hearing negative things about Islam have come to learn more about Islam and have either come to respect it and to have made more relationships with their fellow Muslim peers, or who have come to embrace Islam because they see beauty in it. So I think there's a lot. We have yet to see how the events from the past couple of weeks will affect the Muslim community, and especially the Muslim youth community. But I think that Allah will take whatever happens in the world and use it for the benefit of, use it as a part of His plan.
So thank you all for your comments. I think what's hard for all of us to fully comprehend is that every moment in history is a pivotal point in history. You hear people saying we're living in a pivotal time. We're living in a very important time. This is every election that's happened in the last 16 years has been the most important election in the history of the United States of America, right? But in our lifetimes, I believe we have, and we're currently witnessing a period that will change life as we know it in America, starting with the virus and followed by the insurrection, or whatever you want to call it, the events that happened in Washington a couple of weeks ago, and a president being impeached twice, Black Lives Matter movements last year. These were very, very turbulent. It was a very turbulent year. A lot of things happened. A lot of things changed. And a lot of events came to our minds. And a lot of things were put front and center. Now you are gonna hear advice from my generation, and you're gonna hear advice from the generation before me. And there is a continuous dialogue. But I do want to admonish, not admonish, but I do want to advise all three of you that sometimes we don't appreciate the role or the value of our adults who are younger in our communities. But you all will deal with a complete different reality in 20 years than I was dealing with 20 years ago, and that I'm dealing with now. When my mentor told me that, when Al-Qaeda told me the world's going to look completely different in 25 years, I really couldn't appreciate it. And he said something will be normalized that I was like, ain't no way that ever is going to be normalized. And I look into society and it's normalized today. So one, it's the job of my generation to share with you all as much as we can to prepare you to be a source of guidance, a source of stability, and a source of leadership in the Muslim community. And the Muslim community is changing. It doesn't look like it did 20 years ago. It doesn't look like it did 10 years ago. In 10, 15, 20 years, you're going to have more indigenous Muslims, meaning Muslims born in America, from all different races and nationalities. Then you have immigrant Muslims, okay? Because a lot of the immigrants are having children, and then once they have children here in America, then they become indigenous. And then each generation, and everybody says, and when you read the books of sociology, they say by the third generation, you have acculturation, where you've left a lot of the habits of the culture of the past. Well, you all are forging a whole new culture for Islam in America. You grew up with a complete different set of circumstances, a complete different set of realities. The communities may still be what's called balkanized. The communities you may see still a lot of separation in communities, but that's starting to not be as prevalent as it used to be. And the diversity in philosophical approaches, the diversity in sectarian approaches to the religion, you all will be part of a very unique Muslim community in the future. And undoubtedly the events of these 2 weeks will shape your impressions. What y'all saw, people break into the Capitol, people with zip ties, whatever their intentions were. I know we're getting reports that their intentions were to kill people and to arrest people. You all saw that with your own eyes in the capital of the United States of America. But I encourage you to do what Imam Wallace Muhammad encouraged us to do, and that's to help America live up to its best promises. To help America live up to the best promises of what's promised to us in the vision of the United States of America, and also to realize that those people who we saw, no one owns a monopoly on what it means to be an American. Your expression as an American is just as authentic as anyone else's expression of their Americanism, right? And so no one is more American per se, right? You were born here, you were raised here, you're authentically American. And the wonderful thing about that is that you can work toward maintaining those values that allow you to express yourself in a way that's uniquely yourself, but also helping to ensure the promises of the vision of America, unintended or intended, the promises in the founding documents, in the founding language, that all men are created equal, are endowed by they're created with certain rights, among them life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, so that y'all can help make sure that that vision is preserved for everyone, and that America does not become a master race democracy or a master religion democracy or a master culture democracy, but that America continues to live to the best ideas. So thank y'all for joining us today. I know it's quick. I know we only got to answer a couple questions, but 30 minutes go by very quickly, inshallah. May Allah bless you. Next month, we'll be in smack dab in the middle of African American History Month. The third Sunday is Young Adult Sunday, so that's going to be the 21st of February. So all three of you are invited back, along with your colleagues, so that we can have a discussion on the future of Islam in the African American community, with its past as a qualifier. So we invite you all back again next week. May Allah protect you and keep you safe. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم والحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Assalamu alaikum. We want to thank our presenters for the excellent dialogue. We will now have our community announcements. Every Friday, we have our virtual khutbah at 1:30 p.m. streamed live, masjidwdm Muhammad and Masjid Al-Quran page. We also have our public address every Sunday at 1:30 p.m. You can tune in as well by going to our Facebook page and our YouTube page to see the live broadcast of our Taleem public address. Your zakat and your donations are needed. Ways to donate, you can go to our website, www.masjidwdm.com, or you can send it to Zelle, info@masjidwdm.com, or PayPal at paypal.me/masjidwdm, or you can cashApp $masjidwdm. Zakat is also, and donations are also needed for Masjid Al-Quran, which you can donate by going to www.mercycc.org/donation. The new Muslim orientation class happens every Sunday at 3 p.m. To join, you can click on tiny.cc/N new M Muslim C class. That's every Sunday at 3 p.m. The Sisters Halakha is every second and fourth Saturday from 7:30 to 9:30 a.m. For more information, the Sisters Only event, you can contact Sister Salima Cogdill at gmail.com. We're still accepting donations for the fundraising donor wall for the Ibrahim Kamaluddin Community Center. For more information or to make your donation, you can go to tinyurl.com/MWDM donor wall. We're still accepting donations for that activity. The Brothers meeting happens every third Saturday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. This is a Brothers only meeting. You can gain access to that by going to tinyurl.com/WDM Brothers. Al Farouk Media Productions still have available the commentary on selected verses of the Holy Quran, documented from the teachings of Imam Warithuddin Muhammad. You can contact Imam Eugene Farouk. The information is provided on the screen. You can learn Quranic Arabic online program, Introduction to Quranic Arabic, Quranic Reading Fluency, and Progressions in Reading Fluency. You can register online at www.islamicli.org. Thank you very much for joining us today. May Allah continue to bless all of us. Assalamu alaikum.